My name's Brett Wickard, and I am the founder and CEO of a company called FieldStack. And today I'm going to be talking about beyond point of sale, how unified commerce will shape the future of pet retail. And I want to start by going back to 2012 and kind of set the stage. And I'm getting ready to found a software company, but I'm not thinking about software because my wife, Louisa, is sick. And for anybody who's cared for a family member who's sick, they know that sometimes the hardest times are not the hard days. Sometimes it's knowing when it's okay to leave the room. And so at that time, we had a rescue dog named Ginger. And I'll just say Ginger was not a service animal. Her skill set comprised of digging holes in our front yard and being terrified of the theme song to the TV show Chuck. But almost all of that changed overnight. Ginger stopped digging holes and was no longer afraid of the TV. She decided on her own that she would be Louisa's guardian, and she took that job seriously. It started in the middle of the night. She would sit at the foot of our bed and stare, waiting for Louisa to get up. And she stood side by side with her, mirrored her throughout the day. And so one night, Louisa and Ginger are on the couch. Ginger was on the couch, don't judge. But I was writing software for what would be our first pet specialty chain, and it hit me. Pet stores don't sell products. Pet stores sell care for family members who can't shop for themselves. And that difference is everything. And I realized if we're writing software for this industry, we've got to understand that natively, it's not about the sale, it's about the whole journey. And in order to do that, we knew we had to unify all of that data. So I didn't originally come from software. I started in retail, and I founded a retail chain and ran it for decades. So when I talk about software and operational pain from retail, it's not theoretical, it's lived experience. And all of us who know from retail that software can be brutal. You can need like half a dozen different packages just to be able to run your store. You need everything from point of sale, e-commerce, logistics, third party, search. There's probably, while I'm speaking, more software packages will come out. And when software vendors talk to you, they often use the same lens to kind of allay your concerns. And they're honest when they're saying this, which is they say, don't worry, it integrates. But did we ever think about what it integrates actually means? Integration means that data moves from one place to another place. Sometimes it moves quickly, sometimes on a cycle, and sometimes once a day, or sometimes when somebody presses the sync button. But what all of those have in common is anytime data crosses a boundary, something can go wrong. And we're retailers, right? So we know that means something definitely will go wrong. And there's a million examples, but a basic example that we've all faced, right? So like if I'm trying to buy a Kana for my dog from the local pet shop, I may go to the e-commerce site, their website, and be like, oh good, they've got a Kana in stock, and I go and buy it, and I drive to the store, but invisible to me is their integrated point of sale and e-commerce has a lag. It only updates every 30 minutes. So they sold the Kana that I was gonna buy before I even knew about it and before I even bought it. So I drive to the store, walk through the door, go up to the counter, and it's not there. We all know that feeling, right? And outside of pet specialty, that's a bad day for a retailer. No retailer wants to lose a sale. But for pet specialty, it's a whole different thing because we're feeding living family members of ours. We need that food. Like my dog is not gonna go on a hunger strike because I didn't get the Akana. And so that you may not just lose the sale like another retailer, you may lose the whole journey, the whole customer, just because two databases couldn't agree on one number. I call that problem the integration tax. So why does the integration tax even exist? I think partly because integrated and unified are kind of confusing concepts. At its core, integrated means that there are multiple software packages talking to one another. Sometimes it's through APIs, sometimes through middleware, sometimes through file drops, but they all have one other thing in common is they have multiple copies of your data. And when there's multiple sources of truth, disagreements can happen. And what you can know for sure is anytime one system doesn't agree with another, it's either going to be a frustration from one of your customers or one of your team members, or a lost sale. Well, why is Unified different? Unified at its core is a single source of truth. And in our case, it's a database scalable enough to go from one store to a global enterprise. And it makes some other things kind of fun. Like you'd say, well, how do you integrate your point of sale in e-commerce? And the answer is you don't. They're working off the same exact data, so there is no integration, there's no lag, there's no difference between those. And I want to be clear that this is not a marketing distinction, it's an architectural decision from the beginning. And this architectural decision matters a ton for pet specialty specifically, because at its core, the pet food business is a subscription business without the subscription. And that's magic, right? Because when we're feeding our dogs and our cats and our pets, we are buying, they're eating on a cycle, and we are replenishing that on a cycle. So even if we're not doing auto ship or things like that, we still are predictable. And as retailers, we all know when you improve forecasting, that's the best thing ever, because it's a win-win, right? You're going to get more things in stock at the right time for your customers, and at the same time, you might need even less inventory to be able to cover that. So and I'll be clear too, that it's not the sale that matters, it's the journey that matters. Like, you're not selling an item, you're selling a relationship with somebody, and you're predicting that. So to help prevent, and help you get towards Unified, I'd encourage you to think of one centering question anytime you think about software. Just ask yourself this: will this new piece of software mean that my data is going to be in less places, or will it add yet another place where the data can be replicated and might go wrong? And the answer to that question could save you years of pain. So I'd like to pull it back to Ginger, our dog who understood a simple truth. When somebody you care about needs you, you show up completely, not partially, not an hour later, or not partially synced by morning, right? And your customers deserve that same treatment. And in pet specialty, there's so many advantages that we have. We're leveraging the idea that we know our products, our communities, our people, our pets. And Unified Commerce does not replace those, it amplifies them. And it frees up your retail teams to do what they do best, but as importantly, what they love to do, which is help pet parents and help pets. So I'm happy to answer any questions, and also our booth's a couple doors down, and happy to answer any questions later on too. Thank you very much.